Okay, I think we can get started. It's 6:30. So I want to welcome everybody to the Street Life Committee meeting of Community Board 8 for the month of August. For the recording, again, August 2nd, 2022, time is 6:30. My name is Abraham Salcido. I chair this committee. So a few rules of the road. I'm going to be going down the agenda. I will be inviting the applicant and or the representative to state their name and give us a rundown of the application. Helpful items for the committee are to let us know the hours of operation, the nature of the change, if there's any outdoor or rear space, whether it's ADA accessible, whether you will be doing any type of deliveries, all helpful information for the summary and help to preempt some of the questions that may come from committee members. After I have the applicant or the representative speak to their application, I will inquire whether there are any members of the public on that specific application, and then I will go to my fellow committee members for any other questions or comments. Any motion decisions that we take at this committee will be further discussed and voted on at the full board meeting. The next full board meeting will not be until Wednesday, September 21st, as there is not one in August. So any resolutions coming from here will be voted upon there. A few other housekeeping things. Let's please remember to direct any and all questions and comments to the chair, myself. No cross-talking. As always, please remember and be mindful of decorum. We all have opinions and they should all be respected, and we have our different views. So let's keep decorum here. Let's speak to the facts and not any personal opinions or assumptions or accusations. Anyone who does not abide by this will be muted and will not be allowed to participate further. Okay, so with that's the rules of the road from me, and Zachary, I will hand it over to you for the technical elements.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us, everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except for the chair and the presenters. From the presentation, the chair will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon, pressing raise hand, not the wave or thumbs up button. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're on the phone, it is *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the chair calls on you. The chat is for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of the chair. They will not see the chats. If you have an older version of Zoom, you will need to go to the participants section where you will find the raise hand feature there. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support.
Great, thank you, Zachary. And then just want to make sure that I have the right attendees for the committee. I have Judy, Addison, Elizabeth Ashby, Evan Meyerson, Jane Partial, Casey Lally, Marco, Michelle, Mrs. Brown, Robin Seligson, and just joining us, Russell Squire, and myself, of course. If there's anyone I'm missing, do let me know, but I think that's all of us. Judy, we haven't started yet. What's the question?
The question is, it was my understanding, Abraham, that the August meeting, since we didn't have a full board meeting in August, that though the recommendations of the committee went on and did not go to the full board during the month of August, especially if there was a time deadline.
So you're correct. If there is a time deadline, they can go as committee recommendations. I've not seen any listings of these that are time sensitive. If there are, then those can be raised and we can discuss whether they need to be sent as committee recommendations.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so we will kick it off. We will jump right in with item 1A. Do I have the representative for 828 850 Madison Avenue Members Club? And I believe that's Mr. Bookman. Yes.
Good evening.
Hi.
Ready to begin?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair, and good evening, CB8. My name is Max Bookman. I'm an attorney. I frequently appear before your committee, and as I always remind folks, especially new folks, I'm also one of your constituents. I've lived on the Upper East Side with my family for the past, I guess, 10, 12 years now. With me tonight are a number of people in connection with the Robin Burley Private Members Club. Many of you who were on the committee in 2019 may remember this application because we were before you then. At that time, it was for a different location. It was 30 East 60th Street. We were approved by you for that location back then, but then the pandemic hit and the space that we had assumed we were going forward with did not work out for a number of typical pandemic related reasons that most folks are familiar with. So we set off to find a new space, and we found one now, which is the subject of this application. So we never applied to the SLA for the other space. And so now we're back before you for this new location. So this new location is on Madison. It's mid-block on Madison. On the avenue. It's between 69th and 70th Street. And for those who were not on the committee in 2019, or for those who just need a quick refresher, this is a private members only restaurant. It's extremely high end. Robin Burley, who is the founder of the club and is going to be the operator of the club, is extremely well known in London, which is where he's from, for the high end members only clubs that he runs there, 5 Hereford Street, Oswald's, to name a few. And there'll be folks who are here tonight to speak, just like last time, to attest to the manner in which those clubs are run, to really the high-end manner. Similar to the last application, it's a private restaurant. If you look at our floor plans, I mean, that's what it is. It's a restaurant. It's real, there's 2 kitchens. It's real restaurant hours. We're seeking 1 a.m. closing 7 days a week. Quiet recorded music, either recorded background music or recorded piano playing in the background, but no DJs, no loud entertainment level music. It's a place for conversation and dining. People are going to pay a lot of money to be members here and to be able to hear each other speak when they meet. Unlike last time, this location has no outdoor space, so no outdoor space with this application. Also a little bit different, unlike last time, this location is not subject to the 500-foot law. I mention it because most of the Upper East Side is saturated enough with liquor licenses that it's subject to the 500-foot law. This location is one of the rare locations where it's not, so that has some legal consequences. Just like last time, there's been a robust outreach effort led by Casira. There was a traffic study performed, an acoustical study performed, and we agreed to abide by the recommendations of those reports. And we have a team here that's happy to answer any questions that any of the members of the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. Okay, so first on this application, I'm going to inquire if we have any members of the public that want to speak to it. I'm just scrolling through and I think I see one. Is that, I have 2 now, okay, 3, good. So taking these in order, on my screen at least, can we start with Leslie Samuels?
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Leslie Samuels. I am testifying today as president of the East 70th Street Block Association. The Block Association supports the concerns, suggestions, and requests set forth in the August 1st, 2022 letter to the committee from Phyllis Weisberg. We concur that the pending application is seriously deficient. The application should be done over. We urge the committee to insist that if the liquor license is ultimately granted, all of the applicant's representations in the application and otherwise, including the statements today by their lawyer, Max Bookman, be included as binding conditions in the license. We believe in trust, but verify. Turning to specific issues, first, noise. The acoustical survey recommends that noise from the club should be suppressed with additional measures so there will be no noise bleed from the club to the apartments above the club. These extra no noise bleed measures must apply to the entire club, including the 2 kitchens and the HVAC and related equipment and installations, so that residents adjacent and nearby are treated in exactly the same way as residents of the Westbury. The equality of treatment of all affected residents, including the residents nearby and adjacent, is absolutely essential. Second, traffic. Unfortunately, the traffic report appears deficient in many ways and needs to be done over. Most important, numerous daily deliveries and the garbage pickup on East 70th Street will certainly result in congestion, serious traffic congestion and noise. These problematic activities should be moved to Madison Avenue. The traffic report ignores persistent double parking on Madison Avenue during the day. The photo in the application on page 42, it's an aerial photo of Madison Avenue in front of the Westbury, shows 3 large trucks double parked. This is typical. I am a nearby resident and have photos to provide you if you'd like of the persistent double parking problem. The noise, the traffic report also estimates members and guest trips on the following basis. 25% will walk and 10% will use public transportation. This 35% assumption seems fanciful for the population for this club and needs to be revised downward. Finally, the pending application erroneously asserts in the 500-foot law statement that the proposed premises is not within a 500-foot radius of 3 or more establishments holding on-premise licenses. This is incorrect. The statement that we heard from the attorney that the 500 rule doesn't apply is incorrect, as checking with the SLA lamp map will show licensed establishments within 500 feet. If the applicants really believe otherwise, it should submit a SLA legal opinion to the committee. Thank you for your attention to our concern and suggestions, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. There are a lot of hands, so I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this, but I think since there are a lot of comments, I think Mr. Bookman, I'll let you respond to each applicant in turn if there's anything you want to respond to on those particular criteria. Otherwise, things might get lost or forgotten. So let's do it one by one.
Sure. Thank you for that, Chair. Surprised to hear these comments since we did a great deal of outreach, and this is the first time we're hearing this particular type of opposition. What I heard was essentially unhappy with the traffic report, unhappy with the sound study. We agreed to follow the recommendations of the traffic report and the sound study, but I think what I want to respond to on that, and I'll just keep it brief, is as I think members of this committee know, the State Liquor Authority's lamp system is notoriously inaccurate, incorrect. The SLA does not stand by the measurements in that system. We performed a survey from a surveyor who actually did measurements to determine, on-the-ground field measurements to determine whether there are 3 or more full liquor licenses within 500 feet of this premises. And we're confident with the surveyor's results that they're not. So this is not a 500-foot law application, which means the Liquor Authority's consideration of this application will not take into account factors such as traffic and noise. Nevertheless, given the applicant's desire to get off on the right foot with the community, we commissioned a sound study, commissioned a traffic report, and we're happy to continue to speak with anyone who's interested in speaking with us to address any additional concerns that they have in a constructive way. But the Liquor Authority will issue a liquor license at this location. It's just a question of what how we can address any concerns that the community may have.
One just follow up on the noise. One of the suggestions was that the attenuation be provided for the entire premises to cover adjacent the mechanicals, kitchen, HVAC, as opposed to just the looking at the diagram that just shows for the noise to the venues right above it. Any thought or consideration to that suggestion from Mr. Samuels?
It's an interesting suggestion. First time we're hearing it. Obviously, the focus of our noise attenuation efforts have been on the units above us for obvious reasons. We'll listen to the next comment or two, and I will check offline with my team on that suggestion and circle back at this meeting on whether we can implement it.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll keep that as a discussion point. Okay, so moving along to the next hand that I see on my list, Milton Strauman.
Good evening. I'm Milton Strauman, president of Penney 70th Street Cooperative Corporation. Our building and garage directly abut the building where the club would be located. Our block is quiet and peaceful and attracts many older residents, including a significant number of elderly and infirm people. The presence of a massive 13,000 square foot club operating 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, which the application states can accommodate over 500 people at one time, will disrupt our building and block due to noise, including during the night, street and sidewalk congestion, traffic jams, massive amounts of garbage and deliveries, and noxious odors. It is an understatement to say that this club will negatively affect residents' quiet enjoyment of their homes, including but not limited to sleep disruption, which could obviously adversely affect their health and particularly the elderly. We submit that this application is premature, incomplete, and contains incorrect and inconsistent statements. The proposed club as described is contrary to the interests of our building, block, and neighborhood, and a license recommendation should be denied or at least laid over at this time. The reasons are as follows. 1, State Liquor Authority 500-foot rule. This has been already discussed. We took a look at the land project. It shows 3 restaurants with licenses within 500 feet, Le Charlot, the Columbus Club, and the Explorers Club. And we believe this would require the SLA to have a full 500-foot hearing, which would then require them to find that issuing a license was in the public interest. 2, front of our building fronts on 70th Street, obviously, which is narrow and contains only 1 lane of traffic and a bike lane, plus 2 parking lanes. The club would require enormous quantities of food, beverage, and other deliveries, which the application's traffic report dated July 25th on page 43 of the application states would be delivered to an undefined new entrance on 70th Street. However, applicant's permit from the Landmarks Preservation Commission, that is a certificate of no effect, states that the approved work consists of interior alterations only. Moreover, applicant's DOB filing states that there will be no work on the building's 70th Street frontage. Further, the traffic report states that there will be at least 6 inbound and 2 outbound deliveries each weekday, and 3 inbound and 1 outbound delivery each weekend day. This will obviously impede traffic on our small street. In addition, the massive quantities of garbage will apparently be collected from the small existing service entrance, in all likelihood during late night, early morning sleeping hours. In addition, since our garage abuts the service entrance, these continuing deliveries and collections are also likely to interfere with our garage entrance and its operations. It will also create dangerous conditions for the bike lane. In addition, we respectfully request that as a condition and part of a license, the applicant agree that all deliveries and garbage removal be made from Madison Avenue, which is near the service entrance. 3, rear of our building. The rear of our building abuts a quiet garden area, which is also bordered by other buildings and townhouses. The applicant proposes they have 2 large kitchens facing this, which are likely to vent kitchen exhaust and food odors into this garden area. The application's acoustical survey states that the applicant will install additional noise control measures to prevent noise leakage from the club in other areas of the club's building, but it says nothing about neighboring buildings. We respectfully request that as a condition to a license and part of, the applicant agree that the HVAC and other mechanicals facing the garden area will include noise deadening units similar to the ones it has agreed to install inside its own building, exhaust fans, condensing and pollution control units, and that all such equipment and mechanicals will comply with DOB codes and regulations and be installed under the supervision of an acoustician. 4, security. Applicants' proposed security cameras do not appear to include 70th Street and 69th Street. As a condition to a license and as part of the application, we request an applicant include 69th and 70th Streets. This is where both of its dining rooms and service entrance would be. We request that they include it on their security camera and personnel coverage. 5, operating hours. In the interest of our building block and neighbors, as a condition to and part of a license, we respectfully request the applicant agree that the weekly operating hours be reduced from 126 hours to 103 hours per week as follows: Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. Sunday, noon to 11 p.m. And finally, 6, other conditions. We request that as a condition and part of a license, the applicant agree that the statements made in the applicant's method of operation section, pages 25 through 7 of the application, be formally included in the application, but only to the extent they are not inconsistent with the conditions we have already requested. We respectfully reiterate our request that the application be denied or laid over at this time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Okay, Mr. Bookman, you can respond, or you can choose to move on to the next one if you have any specific thoughts to that.
Yeah, no, just with surprise because Kassira and the outreach team met with Mr. Strauman and I believe his vice president, and none of what we're hearing now was raised then. And these issues, which are all legitimate questions that are typically can be addressed before these meetings, could have been addressed then. So it's disappointing that we're hearing them now for the first time. But they're all, issues that can easily be discussed. And I'm going to hold off on right now on having the author of the traffic survey and the sound study speak. But since there's been a number of questions about them, I think I will, once everyone is done talking, have them speak. So that's all for now.
Thank you very much. Okay, continuing on my list, I have Phyllis Weisberg.
Thank you. Yesterday, I sent a letter to the committee setting forth the concerns of my client, Penney's 70th, who was and Mr. Strauman just addressed those concerns. I'll be very brief because I think the letter laid things out. It also included a photograph showing you the proximity of this service entrance, which is going to be used significantly more than it is currently being used, to my client's premises, and the obvious impact of that. The application, we believe, is premature. Contrary to what the application says, we are unable to find any record of an application for a change of the C of O or a public assembly permit. And for this alone, we think the application should either be denied or laid over until such applications are in process. There are also a number of errors and inconsistencies in the application. As was mentioned, there is a reference in the application to a new service entrance, no indication of where it is, and it's one passing reference, and it's totally inconsistent with what's been filed with the Department of Buildings. Similarly, there are drawings submitted that show 2 bars, but the application says there will be 3 bars. We have 2 very different numbers for the maximum occupancy in the application. We have errors in the traffic report saying that the garage at 10 East 70th, which is now going to be burdened because of what goes on at the service entrance, they say that it's going to be open 24/7. In fact, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's a very small garage, accommodates 23 cars, most of the people who park there are residents. Given these kinds of mistakes, I just wonder how many other errors and inconsistencies are really in those documents. But bottom line of the concern is that this application has a very cavalier attitude toward the impact on East 70th Street. And I might add that my understanding is that when Kasira met with representatives of 10 East 70th, the plans were not shared. They were not things that our client could even begin to ask questions about. So it was not until we saw this application that questions could be formulated. But 70th Street was not included in the acoustical study. It was only the upstairs apartments. The garbage, the deliveries, the accompanying noise and odors are really not dealt with. They talk about for traffic, they'll have a door person on Madison Avenue. That's fine, but they're not going to be able to see what's going on 70th Street. So we think that the application is premature. We think it should be rejected, or alternatively, at a minimum, laid over. And to the extent that the committee disagrees, I've outlined in my letter a number of conditions that we believe should be imposed as conditions of the license, and also the method of operation that the applicant set forth. And I might note on the method of operation, they said recorded or live music. If I heard him correctly, Mr. Bookman said only recorded music, or so another inconsistency. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Sure, Chair, I'll just address those quickly. And I think reverse order, you did hear me incorrectly. I said there will be background music consisting of recorded and live piano. You're incorrect that there are only 2 bars on the floor plans. Perhaps you didn't see them all. There are 3 bars on the floor plans, 2 on the 2nd floor and 1 on the 1st floor. They're all indicated as bar. Yes, we did share the floor plans and all the other application materials in advance. We did that in the spirit of seeking community feedback in good faith. Instead, what happened apparently is that a lawyer was hired and to not necessarily seek compromise, which is what the process is all about, but instead argue why our application shouldn't be approved. It's not premature because this is a liquor license process. This is not a Department of Buildings process. The first step in the liquor license process is going to the community board. The alcoholic beverage control law recognizes that the community board is the very first step in the process before you can file with the SLA. And the SLA recognizes that they will not issue a liquor license until a certificate of occupancy is issued for the building. Those processes always run in parallel. And there is, if the suggestion was that we were supposed to either have plans filed or have a C of O before engaging in this process, that's just not the way it works. And it's incorrect. So I'll just reiterate the point I've been making a few times now. We're happy to engage in good faith discussions with members of the community about legitimate concerns. That's what we've been trying to do before we came to this meeting. And we're happy to continue to do that here in this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Bookman. Moving along to the next member of the public on my list, I have Matt Bauer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Bauer. I'm the president of the Madison Avenue Business Improvement District, which is a not-for-profit organization representing Madison from 57th to 86th Street. Just to say that we are enthusiastic supporters of this project. One of the tremendous needs, I think, for the neighborhood is for additional dining opportunities, but to have someone like Robin Burley operating this institution really, I think, elevates the experience for all that are going to be coming here. The fact that it's a private institution as well, I think also enhances the feel of the street and shows how important it is to create a very positive environment for all those that are coming, because they're going to be coming back again and again because they'll be members. So it really is something that, they tremendous reputation in the UK, and that flair, that sense of creating a very positive environment that is successful and becomes a real institution is something that I think we're privileged to have here. Coming to our district, and I think will enhance, and we all believe will enhance the experience of Madison Avenue. And I also appreciate the fact I know that they did reach out to us as one of the community organizations. They did reach out to a number of others, and we appreciated the opportunity to speak to them. So just wanted to say once again, thanks for allowing us to speak. And that I believe this is going to really be a positive step for Madison Avenue and for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Appreciate that. Moving on to the next individual on my list, I have David Enriquez.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Community Board Committee. I'm David Enriquez, resident in the Upper East Side on East 85th Street for over 21 years, and wanted to share my perspective because I'm also a member of 5 Hartford Street, one of Robin Burley's clubs in London. And when I had heard the news that he was opening up in New York City, and I do remember reading some news stories about the 2019 initiative, I thought it was a great idea. I think that the quality of the clubs, he has 2 clubs in London, as you may know, there's 5 Hartford Street and then Oswald's. Their reputation, the service, the quality of the experience is, in my view, very high and very unique. And when I heard that he was opening a club in New York City, and in particular in my own neighborhood on the Upper East Side, I thought, wow, that's just, fantastic. And aside from the personal experience, I would just, sort of reference, which we've all experienced the economic impacts of the pandemic, and we've all seen a number of retailers and restaurants in the neighborhood on Madison Avenue close. So I was encouraged to see that a fairly scaled and meaningful enterprise by Mr. Burley to open up, the members dining club on the Upper East Side was a positive thing, just especially from an economic development point of view. So my view is that I think this club would be a net addition to the neighborhood. And having my wife and I are both members at 5 Hartford, and having experienced that club as guests of members and as members ourselves for over 7 years, we're very supportive.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, moving along, I have Mr. Barry Schneider.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Abraham, and thank you. Very quickly, I want to echo the comments made by the last 2 speakers, Matt Bauer and Mr. Enriquez. I was a participant as a board member back in the summer of 2019 when the applicant came for their earlier position on Fifth Avenue, I believe, Fifth Avenue. In any event, we met with them. I had an opportunity to chat with them, find out who they were, what they did, how they did it, what their sense of community was. And I was very impressed with their sense of community. They're not an outlier. They're going to be part of the community, and they understand that. They appreciate it. They will be very respectful of their environment. Let me say that at the time this came before the board in September of 2019, the committee voted 5-1 to approve the application. I hope the committee here will vote unanimously to approve this application, and appreciate all your concerns. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, continuing with the members of the public. Next on my list, I have Martin Klein.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. I would like to endorse without reservation the application of Mr. Robin Beerley for a liquor license and any other approvals that the committee is required to give him. And let me tell you why I feel so strongly. I've known Robin Beerley for most of my adult life. I knew his father, and I was a member of his father's club. And I am now a grateful member of Robin's club, 5 Hartford Street. I've been a member since its inception. Shortly after I joined, I sponsored my daughter, who at the time was living in London, and she's also a member, and I think she has written you as well. A comment. I also know our neighborhood. I know it well, and I know the board's work, and I know the work of the committee. For almost 30 years, my wife was executive vice president of Missoni USA, and Missoni's first retail location was in the same Westbury space as the proposed club that Robin is about ready to open, I hope. I know the expectations of the neighbors, and I know, of course, and I'm fully familiar with the work of the board, especially in preserving the character of the neighborhood. I also know from observing how Robin operates his London clubs that he will have the highest regard for the neighbors and the neighborhood. I've lived in New York all my adult life for over 50 years. I've always lived within the confines of Community Board 8. I know the board, I know its work. Previously, I was fortunate enough to be president of Central Synagogue, one of New York's largest religious organizations. Sadly, I was the president when it burned down, and try and rebuild the synagogue with 4,000 Jewish opinions is not an easy task. I also maintained a home in Florida, in Palm Beach, where I was chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for 2 decades. So I'm familiar with neighborhood concerns, values, and expectations. I think I'm in an excellent position to comment and evaluate Robin's first New York venture. And there's no doubt in my mind, based upon my personal knowledge of Robin and the neighborhood, that, and the way he operates his London clubs, that he is going to be sensitive to the neighborhood, he's going to enhance the quality of the neighborhood, and he's going to bring a renewed sense of vitality to the neighborhood without any detrimental effects whatsoever. I urge you to approve his application, to approve the request for a liquor license, and to permit the club to operate during the requested hours. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for permitting me to speak, Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the input. Okay, moving along. And Mr. Bookman, you can stop me at any time if there's anything you wanted to comment on the ones that I've just been going forward, but I assumed endorsements you're okay with.
That's right.
Good. Okay, next on my list is Cheryl Christensen. And a belated apologies if I do mispronounce anyone's name.
Cheryl, you're unmuted.
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay. I'm reading the following testimonial on behalf of D. Dixon Boardman, President of the 15 East 69th Street Condo Board. To Mr. Abraham Salcedo and members of Community Board 8th Street Life Committee. On behalf of the residents of 15 East 69th Street, I am here to speak tonight in strong support of the Robin Burley application for an on-premise liquor license. I've known Robin for 25 years and can speak to the highest of quality operations he brings to every establishment he opens. As a resident for over 20 years, we've seen a lot of changes to the retail environment along Madison Avenue and look forward to this new venture opening and bringing back an active street life that complements the Upper East Side. Robin and his team have shown the greatest of sensitivity to us and neighbors, and we believe that this will be a truly complementary addition to the building and community. Their door has remained open throughout the process and always make themselves available should the need arise. As a member of Robin's 5 Hartford Street in London, I can attest to the quality and extremely high standards of the operations and regard for neighbors. I and my neighbors very much welcome this new establishment and believe it will greatly enhance the quality of life of the neighborhood. We urge you to approve this application. Thank you, D. Dixon Boardman.
Thank you very much. Okay, next member of the public on my list, I'm seeing a Jackie Martin.
Hi,
Hello.
Good evening. I am here in support of the proposed club as well. I am a resident at 930 Fifth Avenue, and I have resided at the address and on the Upper East Side in total for over 30 years. I grew up in New York, but also I went to Columbia University. I went to the Wharton School, have an MBA, and I also studied government at Harvard University, where I also studied urban economics and urban policy. So these issues that are being raised by the board are heard, and I understand what the residents are concerned with. I also am a member of the Harvard Club in New York and Soho House. So I lived in the UK, and I had the great fortune of knowing Mr. Burley like Mr. Klein did. And I am also one of the 500 founding members of 5 Hartford Street. And also I was a member, or still am a member, for over 12 years. Like the Upper East Side, in London and Mayfair, it's very similar neighborhoods. And I lived in that area. And I would say that I am confident that 5 Hartford, like in Mayfair, would be an asset to the community and add valuable tax revenues to the community district, enhance the quality of our lives in the area, and will be an ally to the community district, as it is in London. Mr. Burley has an excellent and exclusive touch when it comes to members clubs. Most importantly, Robin has the experience of watching his father turn Annabelle's into the most exclusive and elegant club in London. Now, Robin has followed in his father's footsteps and created 5 Hartford Street in Oswald's, continuing that tradition. He honors the local architecture and customs and crafts an experience that melts seamlessly into the surrounding neighborhood. Residents can feel safe because only vetted members and their guests are allowed inside the club and must adhere to strict club rules, similar to those of the University Club and the Harvard Club. As I mentioned earlier, I lived in Mayfair, a neighborhood that's very similar to the Armory, to the Upper East Side. In fact, I lived within walking proximity of the club in Mayfair, as I do here in New York. Unlike other venues, 5 Hartford takes great care to avoid any pervasive nuisance complaints, crowding, or other violations in the UK. The staff are well trained and know how to manage the influx and exit of its exclusive clienteles. Mr. Burley and his club members respect the staff and rely on them for a smooth operation to feel welcome and, most importantly, to feel safe. In New York, I spend most of my time at the Harvard Club because it's one of the places in New York where I feel safe. I know the staff is well equipped to handle anything, and I will have an amazing experience within the confines of those 4 walls. That is exactly the feeling I had in London and that I would love to have again in my neighborhood like I do at the Harvard Club. In London, I spent almost every day in the club because it is an oasis from the hustle and bustle of city life. In New York, I hope to be able to do the same. And I do believe 5 Hartford will be my little oasis on the Upper East Side. And I hope you take into consideration my account of my personal experience as a founding member of the club in London and as a resident of the Upper East Side. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm scrolling through and I don't see any other hands for members of the public. So I'm going to do one last call for any public members on this application before I go to my committee members. Going once, twice. Okay, so now we will turn to the committee members, and first on my list is Michelle.
Thank you, Abraham, very much. And I really enjoyed listening to everybody's comments about this site. I have a little different concern. I am concerned about 70th Street. It is a hospital route. It is an ambulance route. As it flows east, it starts to have hospital buildings, hospital parking, locations for accessorized vehicles, ambulances, etc. When it crosses First Avenue and York Avenue, it goes into an ambulance bay. And in general, it's an extremely congested street. So that's a comment about the street. And I am concerned about the sanitation, the pickup and the delivery that will happen on that street. That has to be commensurate with the kind of an operation that you're talking about. Now, let me just go to the operation, because here I'd like some clarity, because here I have very, very real concerns. You're referring to this as a dining club, as a club that's going to be an eating and drinking establishment. This establishment is going to accommodate, if I heard you correctly, it can accommodate 500 people. Now, there are clubs in New York, the Metropolitan Club, the Harmony Club, the Lotus Club. They can accommodate that amount and more, but they don't make their revenue with having that amount of diners every night. They have very limited amount of diners every night. That's not what supports the establishment. What supports the establishment are events. And that's the reason that this establishment wants to accommodate 500. If it was simply a dining club, it would be accommodating a normal amount of business over dinner hour. But that's not what it is when it's asking for 500. So what I'm concerned about, I wonder if it's properly zoned. I'm seeing it as a catering hall. It's going to have events. It's either going to accommodate the weddings, special events of its club members, or as might be possible, as is with the case of the other clubs in New York, they can sponsor their friends to have big events there. But I would guess that the money and the profit, and I'm not against that, believe me, I'm a capitalist. I'm also a member of the Small Business Committee, and I'm also very concerned that small businesses and all business thrive in this city. So from a business point of view, I want to see them succeed. But I don't think, I mean, you have land use attorneys that can look at this better than I, but this just sounds to me as though this area, this use group, is not zoned for what you're proposing. This is a big catering hall, and that's where the profit is going to come from. And that may be all fine, well, and good, and maybe people on this Zoom want to approve a catering hall, but I think we have to call it what it is. And when we're talking about a little private dining club, it makes it sound like some intimate spot where people are going to come in and have dinner. If it does have events, which I think it will, you will then have start times and end times. So you're not going to have people drifting in and out during dinner time or lunchtime. You're going to have people arriving within a half-hour time frame to attend an event. And then these people are going to leave at a certain appointed time as they leave the event. So the effect on these premises, the neighbors, the street, I think all that has to be addressed. And as you haven't, I don't know if you're prepared to address it tonight, but as you haven't addressed it tonight, or the neighbors never even raised that issue, it seems to me that at the very least, that this application should be laid over until we get a thorough picture of exactly what you're proposing here, and until there is some further inquiry done as to whether or not the use group is correct for what you're proposing. So I'm very concerned about it for all of those reasons. And if you can address that, that'd be great.
Sure, absolutely, Michelle, and I'm happy to address those. And there was a lot in that question. I was taking notes, and so I'd like to do my best to address everything that you raised. So first, the type of license that we're applying for is a private club license, but so it's not a catering hall. And I've heard your comments about events. That's not, these types of questions were actually raised in 2019 as well. So I want to be clear on this. And we're willing to put stipulations on this. This is not the type of private club where there are going to be a significant number of events. The amount of money that people are going to be paying in order to patronize this club means that it's very important to Mr. Burley that folks be able to dine there when they want to. And so when someone is told that they can't make a reservation a particular night because we have this event, and you can't come the next night because we have another event, and so on, that significantly detracts from what Mr. Burley is selling his members. And so we can put stipulations on this to make it clear that the character of this establishment is not going to be one of a catering facility. It is not going to be characterized by a significant number of events. This is first and foremost a restaurant, and we could stipulate to that in any way that makes the committee comfortable. So that's comment number one. Number two, on the zoning, yes, they have architects and zoning attorneys, and they're very confident that the place is properly zoned for an eating and drinking establishment, and that they'll be able to obtain a certificate of occupancy, which is something that the State Liquor Authority will require as well. On the comment about, and I think that was the core of what you raised, Michelle. Just a few other points on the periphery. I mean, you mentioned, concerns raised by neighbors. I mean, from what we heard here tonight, nobody who lives in this building has come here to oppose this application. We heard from the Block Association, and I'm not sure how many people that voice represents. And we heard from a condo board from the building owner. But I mean, the people who live in this building, who would presumably stand to be impacted the most by this establishment, have not come to oppose. And I think, look, that does mean something, and that shouldn't just be discounted. I think what you heard from some of the people who commented before you, Michelle, some of the people who patronize this club in London, is that this is a discreet club. It is the right fit for the neighborhood. There is a code of conduct, and I think that's important as well, just to focus in again on how this is a private club license. I mean, normally when your committee reviews an application, it's for an establishment that's open to the public, and so there's fair concerns about fitting as many people in as possible. But it is, because it is a private club, there is a greater sense of accountability. We have greater accountability over the people who patronize our establishment versus open to the public business, because if they do not behave in the way that's commensurate with the code of conduct, which, by the way, calls for rides to be hailed on Madison Avenue, then they could have their membership terminated. The last thing I'll say, and if I missed anything, Michelle, I'd be happy to address it, is I've heard from you, and I have heard from others tonight, that it seems like there is a fair amount of concern about 70th Street and the use of that street, and that's something that we can discuss, and we're happy to discuss here tonight about greater use of Madison Avenue instead of 70th Street. If that's something that moves the needle for a lot of folks, we're not wedded to that at all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If I may, Abraham, I just want to follow up with a couple of things. Am I correct that you said this is 15,000 square feet?
I don't have the number. I don't think I said any square feet. Can someone from the
I
committee
thought-
tell me?
Well, maybe that was in a letter or something, but at any rate, I heard 15,000 square
Someone
feet.
from my team could chime in and tell me the exact number of square feet.
Okay, and well, I heard that. You can clarify that. And I also heard 500, that it can accommodate 500 at one time.
Yeah, that's the legal occupancy. It's actually a little more than that. We also showed you the number. I mean, we have to tell you the legal occupancy. I mean, it is what it is, and we have to tell you what the legal occupancy is. We also told you the number of seats at tables, which is 328. So, it's not a hole in the wall establishment by any means, but it is one that is in an area that's legally not saturated, and based on the fact that it's a private club, based on the fact that they've given a lot of thought and attention to sound and to traffic, and what I in my prior remarks in response to your comments, that there is not a focus on events, and we could put that in writing in any way that makes the committee feel comfortable. I think those are mitigating factors.
Because, I mean, it just seems that you've got a lot of options with 15,000 square feet and an occupancy of 500 and a seating occupancy of 300 plus. That to me, there isn't any restaurant on the Upper East Side or in the whole city that has that kind of an occupancy every night of the week. So the fact that you have that and you've got 2 kitchens, it just sounds, and you've got 3 bars, and it just sounds to me as though there's going to be very heavy use, and very heavy use generates very heavy street use. But I mean, that's how it sounds to me. If you're willing to put all of that in writing, that there are no events and there'll be a certain amount of, how many people you have every night, or are they open for lunch? Is there any other activity that this club offers aside from dining?
No, it's just dining. They'll, they will host from time to time, dining related activities like a tasting for members, of particular wines. But we can put to your concern, which is a completely legitimate concern, because if there's an event, if there's a bat mitzvah, and and we're filled to capacity, then everyone's going to get out all at once. So it's a legitimate concern. That's not what the focus of this club is. It really is a dining focused club, and to reiterate that, and again, not to repeat myself, but this was a fair concern in 2019, and we tried to emphasize it then. The members of this club are paying their membership dues so that they can come dine when they like to, and so a plethora of events completely detracts from that. If we're saying every night of the week, or even some nights of the week, you can't come.
No, but you have, I'm not going to belabor the point, but you have ample square footage where you can accommodate private dining and an event at the same time. You can accommodate to an event and 300 or 200 for private dining. But I'm not going to press that. My only question to you is, and you alluded to this, if you are willing to stipulate to all of this in your application process, that would be meaningful, I think, to everybody. But until and if you say that you are, I would still suggest that this be held over until we get all that in writing, so that we can look at it. That's all I'm saying. So I appreciate your answers. I hear what you're saying, but and your intent may be absolutely above board. But a couple of years down the road, or maybe things aren't going so well in business and they can't support it, and you need another option that's revenue generating. You don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. But certainly, if you're willing to put any of those restrictions into your application and somehow present that to us prior to us voting on it, that would be very helpful. And I appreciate you being so forthcoming. So thank you.
That's what this meeting is for, and we're happy to, negotiating these types of restrictions are why we're here. And anything that we agree to, as is common with this board, that I say is a binding stipulation, your board office will then issue a resolution to the liquor authority saying, do not, Community Board 8 Manhattan does not recommend approval of this application unless the applicant agrees to the following things. And my team is speaking to me, on my other screen as we speak, and I can confirm, and I can represent here now, that we can stipulate to no events, none. That wasn't our initial intent walking into this meeting. We always wanted to have some, but hearing what you're saying and the concerns surrounding it, just to emphasize the fact that this is not an event-driven business, we can stipulate to no events.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, going along next, I have Marco.
Marco, you're muted.
Hello, can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yeah.
Abraham, can I suggest something? We have two members of the public. They should speak before us, or you want me to go ahead?
They came in after I made my last
You
call.
make your choice.
Yeah, so just continue for now. We'll circle back.
Okay, okay, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for this information that you provide, Max. I'm very happy to see you. And the only thing I'm gonna say at the beginning is the integrity of the good reputation of this owner is not in question right here. I think he's a well-qualified person, and we never try to go in that direction at all. And after that, I review the application, which I think you have the applicant right here, Mrs. Velo. I would like to, she can answer all my questions and all my concerns, because I think she's the right person at this time.
The architect?
Yes.
Yes, the architect is here, and that is Ms. Bello.
Yes, and it will be better that she can answer all these questions. Yeah, one of the things that called my attention is this is a landmark here. You have three kitchens, and where are you going to put the exhaust? So therefore, if you're going to put through the building, it will be, I think, very hard or maybe impossible. The only thing you have, the three facades. So you must come back to the landmark community meetings. So that is a serious concern. My main concern right here is the way, the integrity that she was filed, the applications M00761285 as an alteration 2, which she said that there is no change or use, egress of occupancy. And checking the existing CO on the second floor, it has 70 people. And seeing your drawings on the second floor, it looks like you have more than 280 people. You cannot do these kind of statements, especially if you file a professional certification. So this is an extremely serious concern. You better rectify, because you will be reprehended very, very strong by the building department. So the other issue that I find is.
Can she address that one first, Marco?
Oh yeah, sure. If I ever
I think it would be better if she could just take a while time.
say yes, I don't have no problem.
I will address Marco. Thank you very much for allowing me, and thanks everyone for having me here. The first issue regarding the kitchen exhaust, we're working with both building engineers and our client's engineers to ensure that the proper exhaust and cleaning of the smells and the acoustics of this will be taken care of and not visible from the street. There is an internal courtyard in the building where these vents are going up through. That's number one. Number two, the application that you've seen online, simply an application for the removal of existing walls that would allow us to better understand the planning of the Alt-1 application, so that we can understand all of the structure that can't be seen right now for the walls that exist. There's no change in use, it's simply for demolition. And we've done nothing improper. It's really part and parcel of the process. As Max said, this is not about the DOB permit or the change of occupancy. We are very careful to be abiding by all the guidelines, and I'm happy to answer any more questions from you regarding any of our strategies.
Thank you. The only thing I'm going to say is, if you really maintain that, probably the attorney from the building, from the co-ops, may call for an audit of your application, because I think that from my point of view, I think you're going in the wrong direction, especially when you use professional certification privileges. And the other point is, when you file, and that is, I think, is another concern. You have eating and drinking establishment in group 6 and eating and drinking establishment in group 12. In group 12, they said you have to have more than 200 people, and you are planning right here to have above that number. I don't know, I'm not going to put the number because I don't know exactly, but it's above that number. So if you're going to say the group 6, I don't think you qualify for that part. And that is what, at this time, I would like to have an opinion, not from you. I would like to have an opinion from the DOB, which is the only institution that can interpret and enforce the regulations, because it will be unfair, because you can say the other side. And no, I can maintain my position too. But the point is the best way is to go to DOB, and DOB will tell you exactly which use you should apply in this case. And this is what is extremely important, because in order to provide any legal document, in this case, to support the liquor license, in this case, we cannot put our support in something that may or may not be legal. So I think this is extremely important that you go back to DOB, do the right. By the way, you can talk to the commissioner. The commissioner, they can give it to you any waivers or anything at all that you can present, and that will be a good start so we can move forward. But to obtain the new CO, I think it's a serious trouble where you moving in that direction. So I'm still persistent to say you better go to DOB and obtain the legal documents from them, or the legal authorization. And they offer that, the commissioners offer this kind of service at the DOB. I think that's—
if I could just respond to that instead of Brenda and Marco. I mean, and you know, we've gone back and forth on this over the years. Your guidance on what you just said, and your guidance and your suggestion, we will certainly take into account, and it's sincerely appreciated. Obviously, though, and I'm not sure if you were suggesting this, but getting guidance from the Department of Buildings in advance of your committee voting on the liquor license application is just not the way the SLA process works, and it's not something that the SLA is going to take cognizance of in a resolution that you issue to the authority.
Yeah, I have to be in disagreement with you, Max. And thank you so much at this time. Thank you, Abraham.
Thank you very much, Marco. Okay, I'm going to continue with committee members, even though I do see several new hands from the public. But since I did start with the committees, I will continue and then I will circle back. So next on my committee list is Jane Parshall.
Oh, just a couple of questions. Is there a cap on the membership?
I don't have the answer to that, but it's a good question. Can someone from the team address that? Is there a cap on the number of members? Maybe Andrew.
Anyway, that's to me an important question. Number two, what is the membership fee and how do you define exclusiveness?
Yeah, I'm not sure if, well, first of all, I can answer the exclusiveness question because that's part of the law. So this, in order to have this type of liquor license that we're applying for, Jane, it must be a members only club where people pay dues to the club in order to gain access. The Liquor Authority polices this pretty significantly. Only
but is
members.
There an initiation fee, or do you pay an initial fee, or?
Yes, there are significant fees in order to become a member of the club. Not just, I mean, and if you can afford the fee on subject to availability, you can be a member. I'm sorry.
It would be nice to know the cap. It seems to me that the model here is like similar to the doubles club, at the Sherry Netherland in the basement. And I also, the young lady who tried to make the analogy of your club to the Harvard club, I think was just totally misguided. You never read about the Harvard Club in Tatler. Anyway, that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Jane, Andrew would like to answer your question about membership caps, but Zach Glass, he's unable to be unmuted, apparently.
Oh, I don't see Andrew on.
I'm sorry, ATW is his.
Sorry about that. All right, he's on mute.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Andrew West. I'm really overseeing this project on behalf of Robin Burley, who I've worked with, and I've worked with his father for the past 40 years or more. Before I answer this specific question, I was putting my hand up earlier simply to clarify that the space we're talking about here is just over 12,500 square feet, so considerably less than 15,000. And to reiterate what Max has been saying, that this is not an event-driven business model. We are happy to give stipulations to that effect. The club does allow private parties hosted by and for the benefit of members, but that's a very different thing from corporate events. The business model is very much membership driven. Robin Burley's clubs in London do not make significant profit out of the food and beverage side of the operation. They make their profit out of membership. To answer the Jane Partial's specific questions, we don't put an explicit cap on membership, but what we do is pay a great deal of attention as we grow the membership, which we do slowly in order to maintain control over the quality of members. We need to garner experience as to patterns of usage and the frequency with which members attend before we can decide how many members ultimately we can handle. I think in a club of this size, it's clearly going to be several thousand, but exactly how many at this stage, I simply can't speculate about. And then to answer the final question, there will be an annual membership fee in line with the sort of fees that top-end New York clubs charge, and there will be an initiation fee, which will probably, although we haven't come to any firm conclusion on this, be of the order of 1 year's membership dues as an initiation fee. So I hope that is, I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you, Jim. Okay, going to Mrs. Brown.
Call the question. Can you hear?
Yes, hi, Mrs. Brown. We haven't actually had a motion one way or the other, so there's no question to call at the moment.
Okay. Well, I move to hold this over until there's a full board meeting, please, because there's still some issues that's a little unclear, and I need to do some research.
Okay.
We're happy to answer any questions right here.
Well, I have to do some research. I have to look at some of the issues that are being presented by the residents of the community. Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Yes, I think that perhaps having a second meeting next month would be very useful, because I think we've heard a great many concerns, and I think the sort of club they propose seems to be the sort of place that would accept all these conditions, but I think to be on the safe side, we want to put all the these conditions into whatever approval we recommend in the end. So I think that perhaps use the month to put together an agreement, and then next month vote on the proposal with the agreement with the various things. There was so many things that have to be added to this, and that I think a month with the neighbors and the applicant working together, we have much more better results if we wait until next month to do the final agreement.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, and just things that I've seen, there's been a couple of thumbs up to Mrs. Brown and Elizabeth's position statements. I'm going to go with Russell because you have not had a chance to speak yet.
Thank you. So am I correct? We'd said that this was going to be voted on at the full board in September. That's what we're anticipating. It's not on an expedited schedule.
Well, that's actually a good question, Mr. Bookman. I did not see anything in the documentation that indicated there was a deadline, a date that we needed to provide a motion for. Is there any specific, if there is one, do let us know, but I didn't see one. Therefore, that's why I went with the statement that absent a deadline, and I know given COVID, there's not been many deadlines, that we would take it up at the full board, which also would then give us an opportunity to revisit in the September Street Life meeting if we did agree that further discussion and deliberation was required between now and then.
So, yeah, Mr. Chair, we will not have filed with the SLA by your September full board meeting, and I think just to suggest a potential middle ground is that often, not oftentimes, I've seen resolutions from this committee where it's it's a vote to approve, but with the understanding that the applicant will meet with the various interested stakeholders between the committee meeting and the full board meeting, and report basically to the committee in advance of the full board meeting. Obviously, I mean, regardless of what happens tonight, we continue to be committed to speak with anyone who is willing to speak with us in a constructive and good faith way towards reaching compromise that works for everybody. We're in favor of compromise, and that's why we attempted to do the outreach effort that we did, long in advance of this meeting.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. So I think we've heard a lot tonight, and so I know there's a couple of hands up from committee members.
Can I just
may I just interject? It's Andrew Westgate. May I just interject for a moment, because I'm told that I've caused confusion by what I said about events. To be absolutely specific, nobody is allowed to buy out the club and take it over for an event. And I think that's probably the thrust of the question. So to put people's minds at rest, there's no ability here for somebody to say, I'm taking the club over for Gucci's annual party, to give a for instance. The only sort of parties that will go on in the club are if a member wants to host a small private dinner to celebrate a birthday or something of that kind. That would be in the ordinary course of the club's business, but the club is not available to be taken over for events.
And Andrew, that's no different than essentially a reservation of a large table or, the private dining room, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that clarification. I think that does help provide a little more context.
So can I make a motion then also?
Sure.
Which was, so I just want to make it's a motion to approve with the stipulation that the space will not be used as a catering hall and will not be it will not be available for rent for corporate events and the like. I mean, that's poor phrasing of it, but I think we could phrase it the way that it will not be available for rent for events except for private reservations by club members of particular dining rooms. I mean, something along those lines, but I mean, essentially along the lines of what they've been saying. And, that would be the the motion, and if it's seconded, I guess I would speak to it.
So, okay, so it's up from Judy, but I'm just trying to go back a second, since if we are going to take the motion, then I need to go back to Mrs. Brown's motion, which was to table and lay over, which was seconded there as well.
Got it. Okay, I didn't realize that one had a second.
Yeah, she had several thumbs ups on that, on seconds.
Okay, so then my motion can be it'll be there if we don't table.
So just so apologies for that. So in terms of process, given that it seems like we're moving in terms of motions, I have to honor Mrs. Brown's first motion, which was to table and lay over. I know you're waving your hand, Judy, but this is how I'm going to do it. And I did see several seconds. Okay, so with that, so I'm just gonna, well, I'll wait till the end, but on that motion, if someone want to call the question on that. Michelle, I see your hand. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm gonna call a question on that. If anyone's opposed, let me know. Yes, Judy, I see your hand. Okay, so we're going to call a question on this is to lay over for Mrs. Brown's motion. So I'm going to go, if someone's voting no, not voting for cause, or abstaining, put your hand up. So I see Judy's hand in the video, but not on the actual device, but I will take her hand, and I see Russell. So I see 2 no's and several other yeses. So we're going to go with the motion to lay over to the September Street Life meeting. And I just want to, Max, what I was going to get to before we got into the things of the motions was, it seems like there are a lot of unanswered questions, and there's some things that would require a little further digging and would be benefit to all parties here. So what I would suggest is, I would suggest between now and the September Street Life meeting that you and the residents with Milton, Strauman, and Phyllis get together and discuss some of the items that are laid out in that letter that was sent. I think there's a lot of questions that are there that do merit some discussion. And if there's any kind of those suggestions and proposals that you guys would be amenable to, I think that would go a long way to having a more complete conversation and having a little bit more support across the board at the next meeting. If some of those things are, I definitely take and give you credit for a clarifying and the events topic. And I also applaud and thank you for your willingness to want to continue this conversation. So I think in that interest, I would say this is the best course of action on that. So I would very much encourage that that dialogue does occur between now and the next meeting.
Of course, Abraham, and of course, it takes 2 to tango, and we made great efforts at outreach. And now that certain people have appeared tonight to speak their concerns, we're happy to engage in a dialogue with them, and with the mutual goal of reaching stipulations that will result in this club opening with a liquor license that address the concerns that we've heard tonight.
Thank you very much, and I do see that Phyllis was nodding her head to agreement. So I trust that there will be outreach on both sides and working towards having a mutually some kind of compromise. So thank you for that. One other thing, there was a request in the comments, which was, and this might be helpful. You had mentioned that your own survey with regarding to the 500-foot rule. If you have that available to us, it'd be great if you could share that with the board.
We will, because I do recognize that LAMP says something else, and we'll be happy to share that. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go back to some of the hands to close out this dialogue. I have a, all right, on the order of my list, Evan Meyerson, I have your hand up.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I guess it's a little inadvertent, although I tried to raise my hand to vote no on the motion to table, given that we just spent 90+ minutes on this. And I'm not sure what your count was, Abraham, but there were certainly more than 2 no votes.
My no votes, I had Judy and Russell as no. I did not see your hand, but I'm happy to add you as a no vote to that tally.
Should we just confirm there weren't others? I'm sensitive to the fact that that moved rather quickly, Abraham. So I just want to make sure that there were 9 other members who said yes.
Okay. Can we have, Zach, can you lower everyone's hand? Okay, so going back, is there any other committee member in it besides Judy Schneider, Evan, and Russell Squire that would like to vote no, abstain, or not vote for cause on the motion to table and lay over this application? Okay, I see Addison. Any others? Okay, so that's a 4, so that motion still does pass, but thank you. That's 4 names that I have on that.
Would we be able to do a roll call? If possible, or
who's speaking? Sorry.
It's me, Zachary.
Oh, I mean, we don't normally do the roll. So, I mean, I have the list of everyone present. So I am just confirming that the 4 no's that I saw are Addison, Judy, Evan, and Russell.
So I'm sorry, so that means there was a majority yes? This is Max.
Correct. That means it was approved to roll over and operate into the next streetlight meeting, okay, as discussed.
Understood.
Okay. Few more hands on this topic. Barry, honorary member of the public.
Yes, with all due respect, Abraham, you were out of order when Russell offered his substitute motion. That does take precedent over the motion that was on the floor. You should have taken that and voted on it. You were totally wrong. I'm sorry, but when someone presents a substitute motion, the substitute motion takes precedence over what is on the floor now.
Thank you, Barry.
That's it.
Okay, Michelle.
Thank you, Abraham. I just wanted to clarify why it's so important, and I'm so pleased that we're holding it over so that the parties can really speak. But why? Because of language and because of semantics. For example, we were assured that there will be no events. So now it's a matter of what we're talking about, how we clarify an event. But there will be, which is fine, private parties. Now, it's very important that people talk to each other, because those words have to be defined within the contents of whatever agreement is made. It was clarified there won't be an event where you rent out the whole space, okay, but and it's a private party. What's the limit? Is it a private party for 100, for 25, for 16? You know what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that either one of those is better than the other. What I am saying is that when the parties talk to each other and when they come to an agreement, the definitions of those terms and the maximums should be in the agreement terminology. So I just wanted, because, private party versus an event, this is all very cavalier. When you just throw that into contracts, it's basically meaningless because it has to be defined. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I'm sure those that will talk to each other will do so in good faith and come up with definitions that make sense to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I'm sorry, Michelle, my apologies. I was looking at it.
Thank you.
Okay, going down my list. I know you had your hand up for a while. Elena Bowes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm a huge supporter of Robin Burley's desire to open a club on Madison. I was thrilled when I heard this. I've been a member of both 5 Hertford Street and Oswald since their inception. I lived in London for 30 years before I moved to the Upper East Side in 2019. I live on 72nd Street. And I go back to London frequently because all 3 of my adult children live there and several close friends. I always make a point of visiting Robin's clubs when I'm there. So I can speak mainly about his London clubs as I know them very well. Mr. Burley's London clubs, like his father Mark Burley's before him, Annabelle's Mark's Club, to name a few, have been an incalculable addition to London. I've frequented them all in my 30 years plus of going to London, and they're truly special. As someone tonight said, both father and son have a magic touch when it comes to clubs. Several of my London friends belong to and love them. From a member's perspective, they are run beautifully and elegantly. The staff are amazing, exceptionally well-trained. The food is 5-star. I have nothing negative to say about his establishments. To the residents' concerns that I heard tonight about noise and disruption, I can say I've never heard noise on the street coming from the inside when I'm on the outside of the club. It's completely silent, especially 5 Hertford Street, where that's a slightly different club because there's dancing there. Never heard anything from outside. Oswald's, the eating club, totally quiet. Nor have I ever seen any delivery trucks or traffic jams. I've also never seen a rush of members trying to gain entry to his clubs. The clubs are run seamlessly. They're just very civilized establishments. They're unique. I would also like to say that I was surprised when I moved to the Upper East Side to get married a few years ago to discover that the quality and quantity of top restaurants and cafes I don't think they're up to the standard of such a sophisticated, unique neighborhood. I think Mr. Burley's club could really enhance the Upper East Side, just as both 5 Hertford Street and Oswald's have enhanced Mayfair.
Thank you very much. Okay, going to the last 2 hands before we move on from the agenda. Marco.
Thank you, Abraham. The only thing I had to make a point of order. With all respect that deserve the chair of the community board, Russell, I think in order to make the motion, he should state a substitute motion, and there his motion should be addressed first, but he missed that part. Therefore, you're absolutely right, Abraham, because in this case, you cannot have 2 motions. One, it has to be substitution motion, which the chair missed that part. With all respect that Russell deserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Judy.
Abraham, I think you do a great job as chair, but when somebody votes, has their hand up to vote no, I suggest that you call on them to let them vote no if we're going to use this system, because at that point, I had a point of information. It's all pointless now, but I think we need to follow the rules. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Your point is taken. Thank you very much, and I will make sure to do so going forward. Thank you, Judy. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, everyone that participated in this discussion and conversation, and I look forward to the parties getting together and discussing between now and the next meeting. I look forward to seeing all of you at the next meeting and coming up with what I know will be a good, positive resolution for everyone. So thank you, Max.
See you next month.
Okay. Okay, I am now on to item 1B. Do I have a representative for the Sonesta Gardens Hotel? Yes, I see Phil Dorn.
Hello.
Hello.
You should also have Peter Jureka. He's in this meeting. I just want to make sure he gets unmuted before I begin.
I see. He's unmuted.
Yes, thank you.
Great. All right. My name is Phil Dorn, attorney from Pazetsky and Bookman, representing the applicant. With me, like I just mentioned, is Peter Jureka, the general manager of the Sonesta Gardens Hotel, which is located on 64th Street between 2nd and 3rd. The team at Sonesta is simply seeking a beer and wine license for their hotel, which mainly services visitors of Hospital Row nearby. The hotel was previously licensed for full liquor, so This is actually a step back for beer and wine. And they're only looking for beer and wine just so they can have a grab and go fridge in the lobby with a small seating area for guests. There's no bar, no restaurant, no outdoor space, no live music, etc. It's really just a lobby grab and go area for beer and wine. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Sonesta brand. Sonesta is an experienced hotel operator, hotels all over the country. So with that, I will turn it over to the committee. If you have any questions, we're of course happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Phil. First, I'll inquire if there's any members of the public on this application. Okay, giving it another second. Seeing none, I will turn to my fellow committee members, and I will take Judy first.
Hi there. Welcome to the neighborhood. I don't think, Phil, you mentioned that this is formerly an Athenia Hotel, which has been bought by Sonesta, just so everybody knows. And they've certainly been a wonderful part of our neighborhood. They service the hospital right across the street, as well as the hospitals that we have in the community. And they've just been wonderful neighbors. They keep their place very clean. And I would hope that everybody would vote yes on this application.
We appreciate those kind words.
Thank you, Ms. Joyner.
Thank you, Judy. Marco.
Thank you, Ivakhan. I would like to propose a motion. The motion is to approve as presented. Is somebody second?
Madison seconds, Michelle seconds, yes. Okay, good. Michelle, I see you're next with your hand up. Would you like to call the question? Okay, Michelle would like to call the question. Okay, so no. Michelle?
No, I'm sorry. I just have a quick question, then I'll have to call the
sure.
question. I just wanted to know, you said grab and go. I'm familiar with this, and I know there's a lobby. When you say grab and go, I'm assuming you mean, maybe self-service and they sit in the lobby and they have their drink. I mean, are you promoting taking drinks out into the street? I don't think so. No, okay. I just wanted to clarify that. And I don't know if I can pull the question out because I spoke, but if I can, great. And if not, somebody else, I'll support this.
Thank you. Russell supports Judy. Do you have something else? If I can read your lips properly, you said call the question.
Call the question.
Yep. Good. Okay, good. So question has been called. I see thumbs up. Okay, all in favor of calling the question? Great. Anyone opposed? Okay, seeing none. In that case, this is going to be a motion to approve. If anyone's voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, please raise your hand. Another second. Okay. Seeing none, this will go as an approval. So thank you, Phil, and good luck to the Sonesta. Glad to have you around.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Great,
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along, do I have a representative for item 1C, BHQY Cafe or Shunli Cafe?
Okay, Ellen's here. She's the representative.
Hi, Zach. Hi, my name is Ellen. I'm from ABC License representing BHQY Cafe LLC. I have a little cold. I'm sorry about the voice. Their DBA name is Shunli Cafe. It says cafe, but it's a restaurant. It's a full service Cantonese, Hong Kong cuisine style restaurant. They'll be occupying the basement as storage. First floor where the bar is and the dining area, and the second floor just the seating area. The certificate of occupancy per building department on the first floor is 141 max, and second floor is 50 max, totaling 191 max. But they'll be having 112 seats, 36 tables, and there'll be a bar right near the entrance. It's going to be a 16 by 8 feet L-shaped bar. She told me it's going to be about 10 seats at the bar. So I'm assuming it's going to be 8 on this side and 2 on the other the shorter side. It's a full service restaurant, background music, no DJs, no live music. Their hours of operation will be 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days. It's going to be a full liquor license application. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you very much for that. And then just for the benefit of the reporting and for fellow members and the public, 90-10 food ratio, so 90% food, 10% is what's being presented on this item. So first on Cooperative, is any members of the public? Once, twice. Okay, then I will go to Marco.
Thank you, Ibrahim. I have a question. With that number of people that you have in that facility, do you have a public assembly permit?
According to the building department, PA permit is not needed because the certificate of occupancy actually states 141. I've spoken to the architect because the PA permit will not be given as long as the max has been okay by the certificate, by the building department, and their CO is a brand new CO. It's not an outdated 1960 old CO. It was recently provided. If they do need a PA permit and requested by the building department, and because they're still not open and operating, they're still under renovation. If that's needed, they'll apply.
Well, the only thing, Abraham, we put it in the conditions that they are going to obtain the public assembly permit. It is required. Thank you.
That was something we've seen before prior, but as of last year, from the state liquor authority, from quite a few applications, they said, according to the state liquor authority, they said if the CFO says, for example, 100, then and your max is under 100, they're not going to require. I have few applications where liquor authority did not request a PA permit, maybe because of the pandemic, but I don't know. If that's requested, they will obtain. So that's not a problem because the building clearly has a proper CFO as an eating and drinking establishment. So
just to clarify, so if I'm understanding Marco, he is requesting that. So if you guys can pursue that, then that would be, I think that's
if he's going to pursue it, I think it's perfectly fine.
I think the architect, I think that's not a problem because the building department CO is there obtaining as soon as they pass all the fire department, they're not touching any of the fire equipments in the kitchen. It's just decorative renovation at this time. So if it's needed, yes. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Judy.
I'd like to make a resolution, and if it's seconded, speak to it, to approve this application.
Have your second.
Yeah, I think Marco and Michelle. I'm assuming this is part of the same chain as the other Shunley restaurants?
Yes, she's opening up another one on the 2nd Avenue. It's gonna be a different cuisine though.
2nd Avenue and where? Do you know?
I have the address. Let me get it for you.
While she's looking, what I wanted to say, my comment is their food is terrific, and I can't see any reason not to have a good Chinese restaurant in the area.
It's not 2nd Avenue, actually. It's 2596 Broadway. She's opening up another one.
Oh, okay. That's not in our area, but I certainly would recommend it for us because Shunley's food is very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Michelle?
Thanks. I just wanted clarification about why it says new application and temporary retail permit.
As of January 7th of this year, state liquor authorities allowing temporary permit for a location where it's been licensed within past 2 years for liquor license applicants, although it's not a transfer application. So we do qualify for a temporary permit.
Oh, let me understand. You mean because there was no liquor on those premises for 2 years prior to this application? Is that what you mean?
The prior licensee's license, he surrendered or expired back in 2021, a year ago. So as long as within 2 years the location was licensed, the state liquor authority does allow temporary permit.
But what, is there a time frame on this temporary permit? I mean,
Yes, it's a 90-day temporary permit, same as the other transfer applications. It's just that although this is not a transfer application, and we're going into a vacant space, since this location was licensed within the past 2 years, they're allowing temporary permit. The very first one will be 90-day temporary permit, just like the others. And afterwards will be 30 days, 30 days, 30 days until we get the original license.
Ah, so you're going to have to keep renewing this in 30-day period. And then after what amount of time do you get the permanent license?
I hope soon. A state liquor authority estimating a good 6-7 month processing time at this time. So we will be applying for a few extensions.
Oh, I see. So, all right. So your aim is to get it permanent, but this is just part of the process where you're going to have to do it in this way.
Yeah. At least we do qualify for a temporary permit instead of just sitting and waiting for 7 months. So
I see.
we'll be applying for a temporary permit, and you operate under the temp until the original gets issued.
Okay, I see that there are others on the app. The next applicant is in the same situation, as are some of the layovers. So I wondered what that was. Thanks for clarifying. I support this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I'm a little unclear. I don't know if the ADA compliance was addressed or if there's any outside space. Are there any windows or doors that are open and so forth? I didn't hear any of that.
It is ADA compliant. ADA, there's 3 restrooms, one. There are 3, and one is the one in the middle. If you see the first floor diagram, does comply with the ADA, and the entrance does. It's a level street level. It's a leveled entrance. There's no steps.
Great, thank you. And then in terms, there's no outdoor space, correct?
There's no outdoor space or the backyard space. None.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Brown, would you like to call a question?
Yes, call the question, please.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, all in favor of calling the question? If anyone is opposed, otherwise we will go for the roll. This is a motion to approve with the stipulation that the PA will be pursued. And okay, so motion to approve. If anyone is voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, please raise your hand. Otherwise, you will go down as a yes in support of this application. Okay, going once, twice. Okay, seeing no opposition, that will go as an approval. So thank you very much and good luck as you continue to go through your renovations and open. Thank you. Okay. All right, going to our last item of the agenda for the evening. Do I have the representative for 1D? This is Napori Inc. Is that Mr. Dorn again? Yep.
Thank you. Back again. Before I begin, I just want to make sure my clients are here and unmuted. I see them, so I know they're here. It's under the name Sonny John.
Yep.
Great. All right. Like I said a few minutes ago, my name is Phil Dorn, attorney with Pizetsky and Bookman, attorney for the applicant. With me are Muang Lin and Kin Sonny, the owners of Napori Inc. The two of them are looking to open a quiet Japanese restaurant on 2nd Ave between 74th and 75th. The space was previously licensed for full liquor. You may know it as, I might butcher this pronunciation, but Zucchero I Pomodori, Italian restaurant, presumably. Their hours of operation are extremely reasonable, in my opinion, closing at 10 p.m. each night. They are experienced operators with a restaurant on 51st Street on the west side. They also had a restaurant that was near Times Square of the same name that this will be. That one closed down because of the pandemic, so they're looking to reopen in a much quieter and more homey neighborhood, which is why they chose the Upper East Side. I just wanted to, before I turn it back over to the committee, I just wanted to point out a typo I noticed on our questionnaire. Piped music should have been checked off. Recorded music was checked off later on in the questionnaire, but I just wanted to make sure that it was on the record that we will have background music only. No live music, no loud entertainment music, just background recorded music only. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the committee.
Thank you. Okay, for the record, 90-10 food ratio. We said the hours. No outdoor space, correct, Mr. Dorn?
Incorrect. There are 10 seats outside, 5
Okay.
two-tops.
On the front, yes,
Correct, on the sidewalk.
but no rear yard.
Correct.
Okay, great. Good. So then with that, I will go to my fellow committee members, Mr. Marco Tamayo.
Thank you, Johan. I would like to put a motion to approve this application as presented. Thank you.
I'd like to have a second from Michelle. Okay, great. Mrs. Brown?
Yes, could you please clarify the hours again? And is it ADA compliant?
Sure. Yes, it is ADA compliant, and the hours are noon to 10 p.m. each night, 7 days a week.
Okay, thank you. I can support this application. Thank you.
Okay, would you like to call the question?
Yes, call the question, please.
Thank you very much. Okay, great. Question has been called. All in favor? If there's anyone opposed, give me a sign. Otherwise, we'll go for the roll, and this is a motion to approve as presented. So if someone is voting no, not voting for cause or abstaining, please give me a sign, or otherwise you will be marked as a yes. Okay, once, twice. Okay, thank you. That will go as unanimous approval. So thank you very much, and good luck on
You all.
the venture.
All right. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thank you. Likewise. Okay, that is all of the agenda items. Other items are going to be laid over. Is there any new business or old business or a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Brown.
Motion to adjourn.
Several seconds. So with that, I will say thank you all for being here and have a good evening, and we will see you next month. Thank you. Bye-bye.